Greetings, welcome back to another fantastic episode of the Death Taxes and Sports Podcast, episode 75. I cannot believe it. Bing, bing, dollar, dollar bill, y'all. I'm here with several great guests. My co-host, Benjamin Holloway. Sir, how are you doing?
Doing pretty good. What about you?
Awesome. Good, man. Good. It's a great day. Great day to be alive. We got Gary the Legend Johnson himself. We got David Bearman, a frequent guest on our show, and we have another guest, Mr. Aiden Grover,
Gentlemen,
representing.
what's going on? It's a great day to
Hey,
be a
what's going
Giants
on,
fan,
man?
I guess.
Yeah, man.
You do in the eyes.
No doubt. Got Lamar Jackson there, so you see
I
got a little
do.
representing my town of
Yeah,
Baltimore,
I got
Maryland.
the Jason Witten jersey on underneath because I'm a Cowboys fan, but figured Lamar would be a pretty hot topic today.
Okay, yeah, no doubt, no doubt. We're going to be talking a whole bunch. We're going to be fitting in a lot of sports in today. It's going to be very, very, very exciting. So today we're going to be discussing a little bit of UNC versus Duke. Duke got that sweep, got that broom, feeling nice. Ben, how you feeling? We got those Houston Cougars. We got some Mavs without, trying to figure out with Luka and Kyrie. A little bit more basketball talk, and of course, we got to get some football talk because of all just all this stuff going on. But first, let's begin with Mr. David Bearman. We have a new segment here. We're going to give you the floor first, sir. So take it away.
Happy to be on. Just talking a little betting. My focus this week is on the Players Championship that's in Ponte Vedra, Florida, the so-called fifth major. Which everyone used to say there's the four majors and then there's TPC Sawgrass. But now with the new elevated events, it's a lot of these events are now more important than they were. So you kind of ask yourself if it's really the fifth major, but it is the highest purse on tour, $25 million purse, a lot of money out there. Hard course, this is not one of those that you see the same guy win over and over again. You see that in other courses. Obviously, Tiger had won in Arnie's course 8-9 times and Torrey Pines. And, these guys are horse for courses, but the Players' Championship is not like that. You can just as likely see a guy win as missing the cut. And that's what you have this week with TPC Sawgrass down in the Jacksonville area. It'll be interesting to see. All the big guys are there. I believe there's 46 of the top 50 in the world will be there. You won't have the defending champ. Defending champ Cam Smith, not allowed to play since he went to live. He said he'll be there, but he's not going to be playing. He might just be watching his fellow golfers out there play. And, this is what really one of the first times that you'll be like, well, the defending champ's not here. Now, we've had many, many events where the live guys have not been there. But Cam Smith took this event down last year, and he'll be watching. You won't see him until the Masters. So this is one of my favorite events to watch. I've been to it. You have the 17th hole, the Island hole. You also have the final three holes of some of the greatest finishing holes in golf. So a lot to like about it. We'll have our preview stuff out in the morning at ESPN. And, we're also monitoring the NFL free agency. I know you guys are going to hit on that. But you have Lamar Jackson likely on the move, even though the team put the little tag on him today. They're going to try to move him. And it was interesting to see, guys, how many teams jumped out and said they weren't interested in a former MVP.
And Dave, how many of those teams are lying? What?
A lot of it might be some posturing here and there. And, I do believe when it's minutes after the franchise tag is out there, when the Falcons come out as an organization and say they're not interested, it's weird that they wouldn't be. Like you quickly check your depth chart and realize that Ritter is your starting quarterback and you're not interested in Lamar Jackson. But I do kind of see that you'd be paying the guy $250 million, X number of guaranteed money for a guy who's been injured a whole bunch of times and whose bread and butter is running the football. So does he deserve the money? Yeah, if Deshaun Watson gets the money, then Lamar Jackson does. I just don't know what the appetite is to not only give someone guaranteed money, give up a couple of first-round draft picks, and center your entire franchise around him. It's pretty crappy that he couldn't get it done in Baltimore. I thought that was the offense built for him, but evidently there's just no love lost there, and he's going to move on. So we'll see who gets him, but it looks like all signs are pointing to a trade there, or not a trade, but sign and trade, stuff like that. Aaron Rodgers talking to the Jets, and thankfully my Miami Dolphins came out today and said, we are not looking at other quarterbacks, so stop the rumor mill, stop bothering us, stop talking about Brady, Rodgers, Lamar. Tua is our guy, and Tua will remain our guy.
Yeah, okay. So Dave, just out of curiosity, with the gambling with ESPN and stuff, will there be some type of possibly like prop bet or something as far as like a line for where Lamar goes?
So technically speaking, in most sports books regulated across America, that type of stuff is not available. It is available in certain books, and overseas, of course, you see it all over the place in offshore markets. ESPN does have a contract with the NFL, and part of that deal is we don't do betting based on transactional stuff. So we can sit here and talk about what would the Falcons' odds be to win the Super Bowl if they got Lamar Jackson, or what would the Dolphins' odds be if they got so-and-so, but we're not going to talk about what are the odds they go there. That's something the NFL doesn't want us doing. There's a lot of misinformation out there, but there will be lines at certain books and that are regulated in certain states. It's as everything in the betting community, everything state by state regulations, and most states right now don't have it approved to be allowed to do that. I have seen the odds out there, but mostly it's offshore betting and in a couple of states where it's allowed. But it's not something we're going to cover. But when a team is rumored to be getting him, we will talk about what their new odds will be with Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. I figured it was complex, but I figured it couldn't hurt to ask.
Yeah. No, it's gonna be some very, very, very exciting stuff. So you said you got a couple minutes. We can kind of get in some NFL talk. You can be able to stick around for some of that.
Yeah.
Well, Dave, Jeff, can I go back to the golf real quick? Dave,
sure.
Go ahead, Ben. Go ahead.
If you were a betting man, where would your money be for that tournament?
Or
you're not allowed to say. I don't know.
No, I am. My picks are always documented either on Twitter or in our articles that we publish on ESPN.com. I took Rory last week at the API, and after a horrible first round, he kind of came back and took the lead a little late and then finished one shot back. I like him again this week. I just think Rory has the game to get it done at TPC Sawgrass. He's won there before. A couple of years ago, he's had a couple of top 10 finishes there. His all-around game, like this is a guy who finished runner-up last week, and he didn't have his A game. So if he has his A game, I think Rory can win it. Obviously, the names like Scotty and John Rahm and all those guys are Max Homer are people to look at. But I will caution you with John Rahm, although he is the number one player in the world, and he looked invincible for weeks, and then even took that first-round lead last week, and people started saying, is he ever going to lose again? He is not a good Florida type player. He plays well everywhere else, but none of his professional wins have been on the East Coast, east of Ohio. He has yet to win in any of the Florida events. And just when you thought he had it last week, going out 7 under on Thursday, you saw what he did the rest of the week, finishing in the back of the pack. So it's just doesn't really suit his game, although it looks like everything suits his game at times. Could he win TPC Sawgrass? Absolutely. He has the game to get it done, but these courses have not been friendly to him. He wins everywhere else. So I would caution there, especially since he's one of the favorites. I wouldn't be surprised to see a Justin Thomas, who's won here before and plays well here. Really, this course is all about approach game because it's tight off the tee, but the greens are to the point where you got to get the ball to the green. And the best iron players usually win here. So Justin Thomas, good iron player. Colin Morikawa, good iron player. Rory, a good Colin player. So these guys who can get the ball to the green and put on these Bermuda grasses will be the ones to look at this week.
Yeah, and if Rory pulls it off, then the question will be: Is he ever going to win a Masters?
I think he will.
Yeah.
I was at the one that he took a 3-shot lead to 10 and threw it off the house there on 10 and
dropped in the water like 3 times, I think, or something.
Yeah, I think he will eventually win the Masters. It's just a matter of when.
Yeah, that'll be interesting. Justin Thomas has become my favorite golfer of these last several years, man. That dude has a type of swag and confidence about him that I just greatly respect. Tiger's in a whole nother category, but Justin Thomas is a bad man. He's a bad man. Any more other questions for golf, Ben? You want to talk any more golf? Any more golf?
Thanks for giving me a hard time, but let's head to football, man.
Okay, let's get right to this.
Let's get it.
Let's get right to this. And Dave, I know you got to go, but feel free to, just depart whenever. But appreciate you coming on, Aiden. I know you're very excited about getting some football going on.
Absolutely.
I know we were talking through Twitter DMs, man. Let's first talk about this Lamar Jackson situation. I've even said before that the situation even took place that he was never going to play for the Ravens again.
I agree.
And I think that this just justified it. But Aiden, then David, then Ben, like, what are some of your thoughts, man, on just the whole Lamar Jackson situation?
So it's unfortunate to see this go down this way, as I think when you saw him enter the league in his rookie year, You saw that he had a lot of promise, and then he had that MVP season really out of nowhere. And I think after that, for some reason, they just haven't seemed to make any actions that make it seem like this is our franchise guy. They've gotten him Mark Andrews, who he really broke out along with. They've gotten him Rashad Bateman, who's never healthy, who has flashed at times, but I still don't think is really that prototypical number one type of receiver. And he's just never really had a running game to keep these defenses honest. And I just don't think that they've really done much to signal to him that he's their guy. So I don't blame Lamar at all for wanting out and really probably not ever playing it down again for Baltimore. And I don't buy this smoke that these teams aren't interested in him. I think a lot of teams could use him. And I think his passing ability is kind of underrated from what we've seen. And they've just never really given him a platform to show that. So that's why I'd really like to see him go somewhere like Atlanta. You got that Twin Tower type of offense with Kyle Pitts and Drake London and a rushing first head coach in Arthur Smith. And I think that system would just really suit him to a T.
And no doubt. And David, I really just want to get your professional analysis before you go. Being that he's going to be going potentially, like, just in your expert opinion, muchachos, like, what do you think of it, and what do you think is what do you think are two ideal fits for him?
Well, first of all, I agree with Aiden that his days in Baltimore were numbered. The telltale sign was, the knee sprain that never ended, and you go to a playoff game and don't play. It's like, how are you not playing in a playoff game? So, maybe years from now, somebody will write a book or somebody will come out with what actually happened between the Baltimore Ravens and Lamar Jackson. But to me, it's not just guaranteed money. Like, the guy is good. Like, the guy is one of the best quarterbacks in football, and, he's a former MVP. Like, he's good. You're going to want him. And that's an offense that was built around him. They got rid of their offensive coordinator. They did a whole bunch of things for him, and he's still not going there. So, he still could go back. Like, they could match any offer. If they match any offer, he stays. That being said, the writing's on the wall. Where do I think he'll go? Atlanta would have made sense. They came out and said that's not happening. Keep an eye on someone like Indy, who's been rumored to want to move up in the draft. Carolina has been rumored to want to go up in the draft, because I look at it as, let's say you have a top 10 pick like Carolina does. You're going to spend that on a quarterback, or you're going to spend more draft capital to move up in the first round to get a quarterback. You could spend one extra first round pick than you're going to spend and get Lamar Jackson. Granted, you got to pay him Lamar Jackson money and not rookie money. The advantage of getting a rookie is you have him for 4 years with the fifth-year player option that we all have been talking about, and that's rookie money and not $200 million, but you're also getting Lamar Jackson. So I'd keep an eye on a couple of those teams that look like they want, because to be honest, and we've heard all about it all week long with Will Levis and Anthony Richardson and CJ Stroud and Bryce Young. Any of those blow you away? They don't blow me away. Like, and
I love Stroud, man. Sorry to interrupt you. I do love Stroud.
Like, if I'm Houston, if I'm Indy, if I'm Carolina, like all these teams that are reportedly interested in a quarterback, do you invest in a rookie unknown, or do you go get Lamar Jackson? Now, it's going to cost you, but Lamar's a proven commodity. So I'd keep an eye on some of those teams that need a quarterback. And don't necessarily believe all the tea leaves out there of who doesn't want Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, and that's all, and those are all very fair facts. I really like that dude from Kentucky, man. He reminds me a lot of Josh Allen. He's very raw. His decision making is a little bit suspect. He completely only thinks 64% of his passes in college. That's a little bit suspect. But again, we'll see. But first, we do have to wish our co-host, who was feeling a little bit under the weather, Marissa Tigney. It was her 50th birthday, so we just definitely want to wish her happy birthday, sending her well wishes and all the love. And just, again, we hope that you get well. So happy 50th birthday. But Ben, and then Gary, like, what are some of your thoughts on Lamar Jackson potential fits?
So with Lamar, I think that the easiest instant reaction is what we've seen and heard is he's never going back to Baltimore. I don't think it's as sure of a thing as everyone is saying. I think that they are betting that what they valued him at money-wise is more accurate than what Lamar values, what Lamar thinks he's worth or should get. And they're going to let him test the market and essentially see who's right. Was our offer fair? Was he asking for way too much, or is it somewhere in the middle? So I just don't think it's a guarantee that that he's never going to play for the Ravens again. As far as fits, I kind of like Carolina actually makes sense. They got a lot of,
Really?
they got DJ Moore. They got a ton of cap space. Their running backs, after McCaffrey got traded, they were still really good running the football. And yeah, I could see that. Their division is not strong.
They got a great foundation of coaches too.
Yeah, and
Derek Carr.
The best quarterback in that division is Derek Carr. So if you get Lamar Jackson, you automatically, maybe not the favorite, but you definitely have the best quarterback. So Carolina makes sense to me. I think Atlanta is actually interested too. To Marissa's point, thanks for commenting as well. But I think Atlanta is not 100% telling the truth.
Atlanta, and Gary, and just kind of, my thing is with Atlanta is that yes, it would bring a lot of excitement, but Atlanta has a lot. They have so many needs that Lamar Jackson is not going to move the needle for them, and that's really the only thing I'm just going to say about Atlanta. Holla at your boy, Gary the Legend Johnson.
As an aside, there's something off-putting with the fact that they couldn't get this done. I'm not saying that he's in the same boat as a Deshaun Watson, but there has to be a reason why this didn't get done. I don't know, I'll save that for Gary's drive down the line, but so there's something, just earmark this, because there's something that's not right about this. But coming back to what you asked, Jeff, best landing spot for him. Ben makes a good point about Carolina and really the NFC South, it being kind of it's Derek Carr and then everybody else at this point. So, Carolina is a good option. Atlanta's a good option. And yes, everybody, we call it pump faking. Everybody's pump faking right now, saying that they're not interested in Lamar Jackson. You don't say, oh, you think if Michael Jordan was ever a free agent, a team would go, oh, no, we don't want him. We're good. No, you go get Michael if he was available. You get Lamar Jackson if he's actually available. So,
go ahead, Zarin. I'm going to cut you off, Gary Legend.
No, really, I'll give you a dark horse team to look out for, and only because I don't know how much they are in love with their quarterback, even though they say so. Don't be surprised if the Chicago Bears enter the conversation somehow.
Oh, you know what, Gary? I thought you were headed to our division and we're gonna say Washington could sneak in there.
Oh,
I don't trust Washington
I could see that.
to do the right thing. I don't trust Washington as far as I can throw.
If you're Washington, you do it. If you're Washington, you do it. You do it.
You absolutely
Terry
do it,
McLaurin,
but I don't trust them to do it. I feel like as long as as long as the stench of Daniel Snyder is over that franchise, they're going to be, there's something that's not. I
will say this, Jeff, just real quick. If they want to keep McLaurin happy and they want McLaurin to sign another contract, it makes sense.
Yeah, and let's pivot to that. Aiden, talk to your boy. If you're the GM, what are you willing to give up? We're having a little bit of fun with this conversation. We're going to extend this show a little bit longer. Hey, y'all. Aiden, you're the GM. Talk to me. And then you guys can, because this is y'all's lovely division. If you're the GM, what compensation are you willing to give up?
Look, man, if I'm looking for a quarterback and I see what Daniel Jones just went for today, $40 million, $160 million over 4 years. And don't get me wrong, Daniel Jones, I think, proved a lot of people wrong. I think he kind of reversed his narrative last year without really having a supporting cast aside from Saquon and Brian Dable. But if you're a Lamar, you're seeing that kind of money. You're seeing Deshaun Watson money and thinking, why don't I get that? So if I'm a GM And let's say I'm Carolina. I just got this great staff of Frank Reich. I got Josh McCown. I got Jim Caldwell. I wouldn't, as much as I personally like some of these rookie quarterbacks, I love Stroud. I think Bryce Young could really be something. And, if you've seen me on Twitter, I'm a massive Anthony Richardson hype man. But if you want somebody proven like Lamar, I'd offer everything but the kitchen sink for him if I were some team like the Panthers or like I originally said, the Falcons, because even though their defense is pretty trash at the moment, I think Lamar fixes a lot of their offensive problems, and you get someone that can actually get Drake London and Kyle Pitts the ball.
Yeah, Gary, then Ben, because I know, Gary, this is your team. I'm a big fan of Lamar Jackson as an athlete and as a runner. But again, you look at the sample size is large enough now. He is not that great of a passer, and it's not a disrespect to him, but he is what he is. But Gary, your thoughts?
I mean, I see Aiden's point regarding Daniel Jones, and I will go into greater discussion with that in my gripes because I have a whole segment about New York football that I'll be getting into this evening. But just I get his point. I get your point, Aiden, but I'm not sure. I honestly I can't say definitively. I can't say definitively that while yes, Lamar Jackson won MVP, that based off his sample size, the sample of his work, he's good, but how good is he? Is he championship level good? Is he just what we've seen thus far? Like when he's healthy, he's a good 12 or 13 win team, and then what does that even equate to? There's too many. There. For somebody that's won MVP, there are far too many question marks.
I can see that. I think, honestly, I personally believe he's a little bit underrated as a passer when you look at that MVP season. I mean, leading the league in touchdown passes with really only Mark Andrews, and then for him to rattle off some of those runs that he made. I know he's been injured a lot recently, and maybe he'll, take that asset out of his game, maybe lower it down a little bit, just to not put himself in harm's way so much. But I never really liked the system that they put around him there, and I just don't think it highlighted what he could do best. So I don't know if we've seen his ceiling yet, in my personal opinion.
And with respects to that, and Ben, and as we're transitioning to you, there are just different type of quarterbacks in the NFL. There are guys like a Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, who have proven that they could play with less. Tom Brady won a Super Bowl in 2005, which Bart Gaffney is leading receiver. I think he only had 180 yards receiving that year. You got guys like, Dak Prescott, good quarterback, but he needs pieces around him for him to be successful. Mm-hmm. I think Lamar Jackson, for him to do that, again, he's a phenomenal talent, but this is a man that has proven that he cannot work with less, and he's had less than a lot of other teams, and so he needs other pieces. And so, but Ben, for you to finish off, then we'll proceed to Geno Smith.
Nah, I got nothing else on Lamar. We talked about him a lot. Go ahead, Gary.
Okay, go ahead, Gary. 15 seconds because we got to move on.
No, I do. I see the parallels between Daniel Jones and Lamar Jackson, and really kind of having no weapons, but being the focal part of that offense. The difference is what we just saw today. The Giants believe in Daniel Jones enough to have given him that back. I know we'll go into greater detail later, but they did enough. It's crazy that Baltimore, who was supposed to be the team of the dynasty of the future, is about to fall apart before our very eyes.
Well, true, but you also look at the fact that Daniel Jones only has $82 million guaranteed, right? You look at high level, 4 years, $160 million. You think that's a lot, but for them, 82, 4 years, $60 million, 82 guaranteed. Again, I think he's only accounting for maybe 16 to 20 million against the cap. A lot of that other money is prorated as far as signing bonuses. The way that they did it with Aaron Rodgers, with his deal, he's only going to be making 16.88 million, but yet he's due 50 million as far as salary. So there's a different way in which how they be able to spread the money, and hopefully they'll be able to give him a lot of pieces. I looked at the detail. Giants fans, don't worry. I think they'll get a couple other receivers. Again, got to give a shout out to my people out here in Seattle. Geno Smith getting his 3 years, $100 million. I feel like he had a better year than Daniel Jones. He should have got more money. I said what I said. But Aiden, talk to me. Geno Smith.
I really liked what Geno did last year. I think he really came out with that chip on his shoulder. And when I think one of you guys, at least one of you guys here, are Broncos fans. So I don't mean to offend you with this, but there you are, Jeff. But all of the talk this offseason leading up to last year was about Russell Wilson, was about let Russ cook, was about, let's get Russ in a new system and see what he can do. And really, I know people thought that Drew Lock would be starting over Geno. So I think that really just put a chip on Geno Smith's shoulder. And really, I think he just went out there and took it in a good scheme. See, I love that Javonte Williams jersey, man. I had so much riding on Javonte last year.
Yeah.
Just such an unfortunate injury.
Yeah, very unfortunate. We got cheated, but hey, it's all good.
Man. But back to Geno, man. I think he really proved a lot of people, myself included, wrong, and he absolutely deserves that deal. And I think there's something to be said about the continuity that's going to bring to the table when we saw how Russ switches from a completely different system into the Denver Broncos, new coach who just turned out to be just an absolute clown, Nathaniel Hackett.
Oh my God!
Hackett can't.
And so somehow he got himself back into another job just like that. So yeah, I think it says a lot about Geno Smith and the continuity that he's gonna have. You get Kenneth Walker back. I'd like to see them shore up the offensive line a little bit, but they're also a pretty young O-line, if I'm not mistaken, so they can't just naturally get better. And sneaky thing that I'd like to see them do in the draft. I know I've heard some rumblings about Anthony Richardson possibly going there, but I think what would be a great fit for them would be Darnell Washington, the tight end, just because of what he can do as a blocker and how athletic and just giant he is and what he can bring to the offense as a whole. If you want to get the best out of Kenneth Walker and just get Geno a more stable offense, I think that could be a sneaky pick that they could make.
Yeah, no doubt. And guys, Gary, Ben, you guys cover this, but I really want to get on Richardson because Ben, are you good with getting on Richardson high level 2 minutes? Because there's a lot that we need to say about that one. Sound good to you?
Yeah, and I'm a Gators fan, so I'm actually
okay.
I can,
right.
If you want me to, I can lead the way on that one.
Sounds good. Let's just finish up with Geno. Final thoughts, Gary, then Ben, and then Ben lead off with Richardson.
So regarding Geno, no, that Seattle made the smart move. You have somebody that knows how to command that offense. And while, they were another team that front-loaded their wins to start the season, Geno showed he showed that he's not the one that's going to lose the game for you. And I think for that reason, you give him 3 years, you give him $100 million, it's not a hard contract to get out of if it turns out that, Geno turns into Jets Geno as opposed to what we saw last season. So, for me, I think it's a good move on both ends. Geno gets his bag. It's not the biggest bag, but it's a nice size bag for him, and he gets some stability, knowing that he's got a fan, and especially a rabid fan base like Seattle having his back. That's got to be huge, and that's going to be a solid piece of mind for him.
I'll tell you, and Ben, they love the reception that they have out here in Seattle about Geno. It's very kind of lukewarm. It's kind of like 50-50. They're like, yeah, we feel okay with it. We're kind of midway. They're saying, let's see what happens next year. But a lot of people in all the local radio shows, I tuned into all the radio shows today just this week and hearing what they hear about it, they're kind of lukewarm about it. So, but again, we'll see. But Ben, take it away, and then we'll get into Richardson.
Yeah, I think the deal made perfect sense. I think Geno exceeded expectations, and honestly, happy for him. I mean, there's not too many quarterbacks that go on his path that, let's be honest, are pretty terrible to begin their careers, then are backups for 4 or 5 years, and then have the season that he had. So more than anything else, I think I'm just happy for him. I think it's a pretty good story.
Yeah, no doubt. So let's hit on this guy. Ben, I really wanted to talk, and speaking of that, they have the Seahawks going using our first round pick. No, It's not a first round pick. I think it is. I forget. But Aiden, they got them drafting a quarterback. What Anthony Richardson is the name, Ben? Did I get that right?
Yes, you did.
You know,
Yes, you did.
and this is my little bit of a gripe, Aiden, and then I'll give it to you, Ben. It's like we always fall in love with these quarterbacks because they have no pads on. There's no one around, and then they throw a couple of nice dimes and they run a sub 440, and they have all this athleticism, and we fall in love with them, and they have them being ranked the fourth best quarterback, but they have up to 4 quarterbacks being drafted in the first round. Aiden, sir, this guy Richardson and Ben, you got 2 minutes to go on the rant about it, and then because I know you're very passionate about it via Twitter.
Oh yeah. Go ahead, Aiden.
Well, see, my thing with Anthony Richardson, you can see that he's very raw. I remember turning on a game. I can't remember who he was facing. I think it was Florida State. And they didn't end up winning that game, but he made some big-time throws in it. But over the game, you could kind of see him just start to fail in getting these reads and just start to miss his receivers and just really couldn't pass the football much. But I kind of pushed that aside. He's not my quarterback 1 or 2 for that reason. But, man, just the way that he got better throughout the season and some of the plays that he made with that run versus LSU and just some of those just gigantic throws that he makes. The guy's got a bazooka for an arm, but his mechanics really just let him down. And I think if you're drafting him, you know he's a project. You know he really can't start right away. But you got to work on those mechanics, and then that's how you're going to get the best out of that just rocket ship arm that he's got.
We'll see. But, Ben, I'm going to give you 2 full minutes to go on this rant about Richardson because Aiden, he tweeted about something that really hit my soul. I got nothing else to really say about it. But, sir, you have 2 full minutes to go on your gripe about Anthony Richardson.
Yes, so I don't, because it was so far back, I don't know how he did at the combine, and I know Richardson is more athletic, but I almost see like a pretty good Jake Locker comparison. Where Jake Locker, everyone was talking up and trying to make into this great quarterback, and within like 3 years, he was done. I don't think Richardson will have that exact path, but I just don't fully understand. I'm a Gators fan. I don't watch every week because unfortunately they haven't been that good the last couple of years, but like I just don't see it, man. Like athleticism is one thing, but man, as a passer, can he improve? Absolutely. But it just, I cannot see. It doesn't matter the talent and the potential that he has. I don't see him having like a 10-year career as a starter, possibly 10 years in the league. I could see that, but there's just so many flaws, and there's only a certain amount of improvement normally that a quarterback can get in a certain area, and I cannot see him making the leap that is required as a passer to be a starting quarterback in the NFL. Athleticism is great. And you're right. He made some nice runs and, he set all those records at the combine. But to Jeff's point, there's no pads, there's no players, there's no pass rush. And I honestly, I'll be the first to admit, if he goes on and has this successful career, say, listen, I was dead wrong. But I can't see it, man. I don't understand the love for him. I thought he was like second, third. I would not spend more than the second round pick. And here we go. He's being drafted possibly in the top 10. I can't see it. Good luck to that team is my opinion.
Yeah. And it's like, Aiden, and before we wrap up this football conversation, it's like we see this all the time. And, we've watched football. I know I'm only 33, but Ben, you and I have been watching football and I don't know how old you are, but
I'm 23. Yeah.
Okay, you're 23.
You guys got a decade on me.
You're a young buck. So Gary, Ben, we have been watching football for a very, very, very long time. I've been paying attention to the draft, and I can really honestly say I remember since 2002. And I remember a guy named Joey Harrington from Oregon who was lights out. They loved him and was absolute trash. I remember these draft analysts back in 2011 and generally tried to say that Blaine Gabbert was a better NFL prospect than Cam freaking Newton. After Cam Newton literally had the most dominant college football season of all time. Ben, how many times did you and I talk? That's when you and I just hanging out, where we thought Todd McShay was absolutely crazy and trying to say that Blaine freaking Gabbert was a better pro-ready prospect than Cam Newton. I don't get it.
I just think that there's so much emphasis and coverage on the combine now compared to even 10 years ago that
that's very true. Yeah.
People just fall in love, and it's like, bro, watch the tape. Look at him play.
But the tape with Anthony Richardson, man.
As a runner, but as a passer, come on now.
You got to look at some of those throws that I know he's not very accurate all the time, but when you unlock the type of throw that he makes that just makes his arm special.
You're talking about a deep ball. You can't.
No, I'm talking about fitting it through tight windows. There's a throw where I think it was Ricky Pearsall or one of those receivers on the Gators, and he just fits it through two defenders in the end zone off his back foot, facing the other direction. It's those types of throws that I think if you just get him to work on his mechanics, then you have something there.
The only person that I will give, and then Gary, we'll get you into this one. The only person that I actually give credit for actually improving as a passer is Josh Allen, because there was a lot of questions about his accuracy. I think he completed less than 60% of his passes. His last 56% his last season at Wyoming, and I'm just like, yo, the guy has a deep ball, but that was because of coaching. So
Brian
it's
Dable,
possible,
man.
but it's rare. It is rare. So that's all I'm going to say. But Gary, any kind of high-level thoughts before we proceed to some of this basketball talk? Because we've almost exhausted 40 minutes of this.
No, I'm ready for the basketball talk. Let's go.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds good. Mr. Aiden Grover, would you like to stay? With a little bit of basketball talk, sir? Or what do you think?
I would love to, but I'm not going to be able to contribute much since I've been, haven't really been keeping up with the NBA as much. Only the playoffs, really. But you guys.
Before you go, give people a shout out to what you do on your Twitter show.
For sure, man.
Come in. I reached out to you because you were very passionate. So let the fans know what you do for football and all that stuff, and we have to bring you back on.
I really just put my opinions out there, honestly. I'm not some type of super stat analytic nerd or anything like that. I just I'll take people's stats, I'll analyze them myself, but I'm more of I like to watch it happen live. I like to watch.
Aiden, give yourself a shout out. Where can they find you?
What's your Twitter?
You can find me.
What's your handle?
Candid Fantasy FF. So the word Candid Fantasy FF all together. That's mine. I call it Candid because I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not gonna look for engagement. I'm just out there putting my opinion out. So. All
right. Well, y'all look out for this dude. Ben, make sure let's put him on a follower chain. We'll put you in a follower chain. I think between us we have 20. We got 17,000. We got about 20,000 followers between the both of us. So I mean, we got we just little dudes out here just trying to make it happen. So
awesome, man. Aiden, I love it,
sir. Appreciate you coming on.
Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate it. Thank you, Ben.
And, we'll sign you off here, sir. Aiden Grover, everybody. All right, so let's kind of get right to this, guys. So we have, where are we going with this? Because there's so much. Do you guys like this view? This view looks weird. Makes my face
I'm not
look
a fan
big.
of it.
Makes my face.
Yeah, go with that.
No. I like this sideways thing.
Yeah, the one that you had. Yeah, this one. No, not that one.
What about this one?
Leave it.
This one?
How many times
I'm having fun.
I know.
I'm just having fun.
Yeah. All right, so
let's fun, y'all. All right, so anyway,
Jeff, as the resident Duke fan, you want to go in on this game first?
Yeah, let's do it. Man, let me just say there's so much to take from this, but I'm just going to talk trash just for 5 seconds because
get it out.
Because Ben, how does it feel? How does it feel?
You know how I can answer that? How does it feel that we beat Coach K's final home game at Duke and then in the Final Four?
That's fine.
So how does it feel? Right back at you.
Congratulations, you get that. Whatever, but it's whatever you've done for me lately. It's no. But I'll just say this though. I would just say this. I know you guys said it last Tuesday. I'm only going to comment on this, is that UNC should not have been the number one preseason ranked team. They were number 8 seed for a reason. Seeding is based on how you do throughout the season. They put a lot of hype on them. I still think they're a very talented team, but I really think that Hubert Davis just does not get a lot of production from the bench, and the three-point shooting is absolutely horrendous. They almost won those 2 games. So it wasn't like Duke overwhelmingly was better, but I have to give it to John Shire to still have 7 freshmen on this team and pretty much replacing your whole entire starting lineup. You got to admit they're playing at the right time. But it was a very good game. It was very, very, very intense. It's just like a rivalry game. Duke UNC, if anyone has ever has a chance to go, you got to go. But Ben, talk to me.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to one of those freshmen. I hope I'm going to get his name right, but a center, Kyle Filipowski for Duke.
Put some respect on his name.
22 points and 13 rebounds in the Saturday night game, UNC and Duke. And beyond the stats, he made some big plays. Like, he was one of the biggest reasons that Duke won. So I had to give him some love. I'm going to talk about UNC quick. So their last 10 games, they're 4-6. Not what you want to be going into conference tournament play with. And then there were their 2 starting guards on Saturday night who were arguably the biggest reason they made it to the Final Four in the national championship game. RJ Davis and Caleb Love. Saturday night, 9 out of 25 field goals and 3 out of 11 on 3-pointers. As a team, they were 5 for 23 from 3. Like, you in 2023, if you can't shoot the 3, that is a big problem. So it's been a theme the entire season. They're only shooting 30% for the year, which is really bad. So that's once they needed a 3 at the end when the Duke was up by 3. I'm like, yeah, we're done. we need a 3. We ain't hitting a 3.
Yeah, and we could go back and forth about this. Gary, do you have any thoughts on UNC Duke, or are you just chilling?
No, what I will say is you made a great point, Jeff, about Hubert Davis. I think, the lack of production off the bench is going – it was a problem all season long. It was kind of a problem throughout the tournament last year if you kind of paid attention to it. Like, yes, he had, flashes especially during the run, like at least in the Elite Eight, that run by their bench was key. But I think what we're seeing is that Duke is the more complete team at this point. And, I trust them to go a little bit further along in the I don't trust North Carolina to even make the tournament, but I see Duke being kind of in that UNC spot of being like the old guard that makes a long run this year.
Yeah, and we're going to see on that. And Ben, if we can, let's just kind of for time's sake, because I really want to get into some NBA talk here, is that these Duke UNC. Any other thoughts, Ben, on that sweep that you guys took?
No, I was hoping that we could even just for a couple minutes talk Houston before we head to the NBA.
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, let's do it. So
I got some good stuff on them.
Yeah. So and then Ben, then Gary, then we'll proceed on to NBA.
I can be quick with it, but I just want to get some stuff out.
But Houston, my thing is that this team has 2 losses all season. You look at their record. Calvin Sampson, listen, got to give credit to him. I remember the man coached at Oklahoma. He was a phenomenal coach. Has done a lot of good stuff, but this year is just going to be so topsy-turvy when it comes to who's going to win, who's going to lose. I really think there's going to be a lot of double-digit seeds putting off a lot of upsets. But go ahead, Ben, and then Gary, and then we'll keep this thing going.
Yeah, so you talked about Kelvin Sampson, so I'll go there first. So for his career, 68% winning percentage. At Houston, the first year he was 13-19. After that, it's a total of 8 seasons. He's won 80% of his games. I don't know. That's pretty good. I don't know. Just throwing it out there. Now, as far as this year, they started 9-1, and now they're 29-2. So that's 20 out of pretty good. And then I was looking at it. They're 5 starters. 4 of them are juniors and seniors. And then they basically all average double digits points per game. The only one that's not averaging more than 10 per game is at 9.9. So basically their entire starting lineup averages double digits, which is great, obviously. And, the last 2 years, they've made the Final Four, made the Elite Eight. So they've proven that they can – it's not just the conference. They can win in the tournament. So, I mean, who's to say that they couldn't make the Final Four again? I mean, 2 years ago they did.
Didn't they have several 6-year seniors on that team, last year's team? So didn't he kind of replenish? So he replenished. So let me get this straight. So he had four. I think he had, because they beat a very good Arizona team. So they had 4 6-year seniors.
Last year, right?
Last year they had 4 6-year seniors, and so they go losing all those people to replenishing that and even having a better record. Am I getting that correctly? Because if so, dang.
Yeah, better record, and there's, like I said, there's starters. There's one freshman. Let me get the name right. Jarace Walker, and then their starting backcourt is their strength. Jamal Sheed and Marcus Sasser, junior and senior. So, yeah, you're right. I mean, I remember that too. You're right. They definitely had some 6-year seniors, but they're still an experienced team, and obviously got some depth. So. I mean,
Gary,
I'm rooting for him, I'm rooting for him.
Gary, man. I mean, but I think that, like, and I want to get your thoughts on this. I mean, that puts a whole nother thing into perspective. The fact that you have, I think, 4, 5, 6-year seniors, and you even have a better year, just shows the type of coach and recruiting that Calvin Sampson is. That, I mean, coach of the year, in my opinion. Thoughts, Gary?
I mean, he's been doing this for a while, so But college sports is like the last bastion for coaching, as far as like that's where the coaching truly matters. Where you can have talent all you want, but you've seen the best example in the NCAA tournament a couple years ago. You had UMBC beat the number 1 overall seed in Virginia.
Mm-hmm. Shout out to UMBC.
That's hard work beating talent. You know what I'm saying?
And Gary, they didn't beat them. They spanked them.
Exactly.
Won by 20 points.
Exactly. That's all a product of coaching. That's what I mean by in college, this is where coaching matters the most. And Kelvin Sampson has done this enough that, this it's not surprising, and Houston could be that next dynasty team in the NCAA where we look at your Final Fours. They may replace Gonzaga in that echelon. So who knows? I personally think Houston's the team to beat in this tournament. If I was to come out of the bracket today, I would have them as my champion. But it's this time of year, so you never know.
Yeah, and it's crazy because it's in the Final Four this year, and the national championship is in Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Look at that. Maybe they can pull a Tampa Bay.
That would be
Tampa Bay Bucks move here.
You want to talk about the historical significance? I'm putting on the board. I'm going to that game. I'm going to that. That's going to be awesome. That's going to be that's just, man. That atmosphere is going to be.
Super quick, back to Kelvin Sampson. He's done a great job, as we have said. He's still looking for that first championship. So that's the one thing missing.
Yeah, but hey, it's going to be something. Yeah, we'll see. I remember when he was coaching Oklahoma, I think they lost to 2003 national champion Carmelo Anthony, I think it was.
I think so.
Yeah. But anywho, let's keep this thing going. We'll talk a little bit more college basketball probably in the next episode, probably after championship week, after the brackets come out. I really think we should spend a lot of time talking about that. But just for the sake of time, let's talk about a Luka Kyrie pairing. What is their record been now since they've been together? Talk to me and take it away. Okay.
So their record is 2-6, and just I wrote down on the Mavs, 2-6 in their last 8 games. 5 out of those losses were by 5 points or less, which actually leads me to my next point. Is some of those games, man, the end of the fourth quarter, it is so disorganized. They're like, oh, no, you go. No, I go. Wait, when do I go? It's awkward, man. Awkward is literally the word that I wrote down, because watching some of those late possessions, it's like to be fair, they're trying to figure it out on the fly. They haven't known each other. They haven't played with each other that long. But, man, it almost seems like they are overthinking so much, and there is no fluidity. There's no it's weird to watch them at the end of those games, which is why they have lost those games. And then I wanted to make this point as well. Luka and Kyrie, we know from watching basketball and being educated, they are both at their best with the ball. And they've been used to in their careers, for the most part, having the ball. But, and I almost forgot my point. Here we go. LeBron and Wade, when they came together, they were both ball dominant and used to having the ball together. And that first year, of course, they made the NBA Finals and then lost, obviously. But it took them that entire year to figure out how to play the most effective with each other. And we're asking Luka and Kyrie to do it in 2 months. So I'm not quite sure if the expectation is necessarily fair, but that comes with being a superstar. You are Kyrie, you are Luka, you're amazing players, amazing ball handlers. There's going to be some pressure to figure it out. But, I mean, it's LeBron and Wade. Literally, it didn't click fully until arguably the halfway point of the second season. So I think that has something to do with some of their struggles.
Yeah, and but they almost won that game though, and it's crazy. Like they still almost won it despite the defensive inefficiencies, and I still have some concerns about the Suns from their bench depth.
Luka missed that bunny at the end that would have tied it.
Yeah, and the Suns. We won't talk about the Suns too much, Gary, but I kind of have some concerns about the Suns because that bench is just absolutely horrendous. But Gary, talk to me.
No, really, we didn't learn much any more than what we already knew. Dallas sacrificed defense to try to do what teams always try to do, and that's just completely outscore you. And we're finding it in the fourth quarter, they're throwing up, put up these great points, these great scoring marks from both Kyrie and Luka, but you've shown nothing for it. And when this trade happened, we talked about it. It's like, all right, they're going to be fun to look at, but defensively, it's going to be a dumpster fire. And sure enough,
it has been.
You look at that team, and they weren't going to win a championship as constituted anyway. So I get it. You make the trade, you try to, you shoot your shot. Mark Cuban has enough money to shoot his shot every single time. We get that. But as I've speculated and as I've seen other people speculate, could this be the reason why Luka eventually leaves Dallas? Because at some point, that culture killer Kyrie is going to emerge. Right now, it's the honeymoon phase. Everybody's just trying to figure out their role, how this is all going to work, and maybe they'll win a first round series as a result. But honestly, I doubt it.
That Kyrie ain't coming out this year, and you want to know why? Because he wants his money.
Right. Yeah.
So that's not going to happen this year. If he re-signs with Dallas, I will fully agree with you on that. But he's on his best behavior because he wants his money.
Luka's going to be in a Lakers jersey by 2025. I'm putting it on the board now. It's going to happen. He's going to be a Laker. He's going to be a Laker. And I'm telling you, we're going to look back on this episode 2 years from now when it's like DTS episode 1050. It's going to happen. Maybe 1050, maybe 200. But the thing is that you look at the West, you look at outside of Denver. Denver looks like the stud. But outside of that, there's a lot of other questionable teams from a defensive standpoint. I mean, you look at the West is still wide open, folks. I mean, the Grizzlies are not the Grizzlies anymore. They're imploding right in front of us, and we'll talk about them in a second. I mean, good Lord. I mean, Golden State is still Golden State, and we give them respect because of what they've done in the past, but there's still no guarantee that even if Andrew Wiggins does come back, that they're going to be who they are, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, you look at outside of Denver, it's very up in the air, and I do not give the Suns as the overwhelmingly favored because you look at that game, that bench is just absolutely horrendous. And Dallas still beat Phoenix, who had the best record in the league without a Christian Wood and without a Kyrie Irving. So we could judge it right now, but now what you didn't, but I don't think a lot of people notices about this was that Luka was able to rest for about 5 or 6 minutes in the fourth quarter, and he came back and was very well rested. That is what they didn't have before because now they have Kyrie Irving. They're very good enough with the Christian Wood and with the Tim Hardaway. Dude, they're very sneaky good to be able to win a series or two and maybe get into the Western Conference Finals. I don't think it will happen, but are we just going to write them off now because based on what they did last year, now you have Christian Wood, now you have a Kyrie Irving. Thoughts, folks? Gary?
Yeah, I was just going to say before we –
Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, sorry, Gary. I didn't want to lose my train of thought. So the one thing, just to hop back to their fourth quarter kind of struggles, and I know Jason Kidd is highly intelligent. He was a point guard. He's a Hall of Famer. I almost wonder if it's like, let's just dumb it down. Fourth quarter, close games, let's just do pick and rolls. I mean, those guys, as great as they are at ball handling, if they just did pick and rolls at the end, it would probably be more effective than what they're doing now. So if I'm Jason Kidd at late game situations, I think it's a smart idea. Just have them run pick and roll. They're both fantastic at it. So,
yeah, I mean, there's definitely going to be a lot of different questions, but real quick, Gary, Ben, you first, Gary. How far do we think that the Mavericks can go?
They have the talent to get to the Western Conference Finals. They're going to lose in the first round.
Okay. All right, Gary Legend. You heard everyone. Gary, you got to change your name from Gary J to Gary Legend, by the way. The disrespect is unreal. But Ben?
It's funny that Gary said that. I'm actually in full agreement. Talent to get to the conference finals, but I see a first round exit.
Okay, how about this? Biggest surprise in the West. I think the Eastern. Do we both agree that the Eastern Conference is? Go ahead, Gary Legend.
I'm sorry. I'm looking at the standings right now. You know what? No, never mind. Because I was gonna say if the playoffs started today, Dallas would be playing Sacramento in the first round. Which I'm like, what is this? 2003? But yeah, Dallas would play Sacramento in the first round. And even then, I'd put Sacramento over Dallas. So it's still first round. I'm sorry, Jeff. Go ahead.
Okay. No, I'm saying like so. So two questions. Do we agree that the Eastern Conference is pretty solidified as far as top three between Bucks, Philly, Sixers? One of those teams going to represent the East?
Most likely, yes.
Ben, okay. So
Yes.
what is a bigger, and then Ben, I'll throw it to you, McGarry, before we go to the Sixers. Who do we think is the biggest surprise to make it to the NBA Finals, not Golden State or Denver?
All right. I like that. I will say that I think we're going to go there next. Memphis, man. Can they figure it out? Especially, I mean, the obviously
I'll take Boston.
they're healthy and Morant is back. I mean, I don't really believe in them. I would not put – actually, it might be a good bet to put $100 on them in Vegas because you probably could win about $5,000 if they did make the finals. But I just think if it's not Denver and it's not Phoenix, who else is it going to be in the West? You can't tell me you'd have Sacramento going to the finals. Like, come on. Like, so I think that the Grizzlies with their depth, obviously if they're healthy and Ja comes back, I mean, you said a surprise to go to the NBA Finals. There's your surprise.
Okay. Gary?
So I guess you're asking who would be a surprise besides Golden State and Denver?
Yeah.
I'm going to lean Phoenix only because, again, they have to kind of make that splash now that they have KD. And I know defensively, I know their bench is still leaves a lot to be desired, but you don't make that trade with the intent to lose in like the second round like you did last year. Like this is
Okay.
where you make that you have to at worst win the West. So I think if
Okay.
there's a team besides Golden State and Denver, I'm going to say Phoenix. I don't trust Memphis and Sacramento while they are in fact the feel-good story of this NBA season. That luck's going to run out at some point. It has to.
Okay. All right. We'll see. We'll definitely see. The West is just going to be so wide open. I don't think Denver is the runaway favorite, even though they've won the regular season. We know regular season basketball is vastly different from playoffs. But again, we'll see. But let's get to the 76ers, man, because Ben, we were texting in the group chat and we were wondering, okay, can the 76ers beat a good team? And they were going against a juggernaut in the Milwaukee Bucks who had a 16-game winning streak.
Yep.
And I was very, 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 very pleasantly surprised and impressed with how the Sixers were able to come back down upwards of 20 points at one time. Joel Embiid and James Harden hit 2 clutch threes. Ben, man, I don't want to get too excited about this game, but it's cute and adorable to talk about James Harden.
It was a big win. It was definitely a big win.
It was.
They needed it. And I was actually a little bit surprised. I thought they had, a lot more struggles against the top teams, but I wrote down, so there are other 3 in the West in the East, sorry. Boston, Milwaukee, the Cavs, and Denver and Memphis. And I was surprised to find out they have a winning record against all of them besides Boston. I thought they'd struggled against like the top tier teams. I literally was writing it down and I'm like, oh, I got to cross it out because they have it. They're 0-3 against Boston. But other than that, out of those 5 teams, they are 3-1, 4-2.
Yeah,
so I couldn't even say they can't beat a good team because besides Boston, they've beaten all the good teams. So I was surprised to find that, but I'm like, oh, okay. Well, maybe their reputation that can't beat a good team was a little bit overblown. I mean, they did lose to the Celtics 3 times, but I mean, for the 76ers, let's just be fully clear. What happens now doesn't matter. It all comes down to the playoffs. And I think, Gary, to your point, as far as like the NFL with the Bills, if not now, when? I almost think this might be the 76ers' best chance. And I know Boston, Milwaukee are arguably better than them and should be favored over them. But, Embiid has already proven that he gets injured. We know that. And as a big man, when you get older, those injuries are going to happen more and more. It's not like he's all of a sudden going to become Mr. Durability. That and Harden, he's having a great year. I think he's averaging 21 and 10, but he's 33 years old. So it's like you have Embiid healthy, hopefully, for the next couple months. Harden is still pretty effective, but he's getting older. It's like now's the time. And they have 3 players averaging over 20 points a game, and then their 4th best scorer is at 15. So they got 4 players averaging over 15 points per game. And I got to go on a slight rant on Embiid. As amazing as he is and the statistics, and I think he's number 2 in the league in scoring, I feel like he could be like the modern day Shaq, where if he was in the post more, he would dominate. Like in the post, I feel like nobody could stop him in the entire league. I know, it's the 3-point league and you want to shoot threes, but honestly, it bothers me, especially my buddy Jordan was pointing this out. It happens actually a lot in the playoffs too, especially in the 4th quarter where he sits out by the 3-point line. And it's like, bro, like get your butt in the paint. Look how big and how dominant that you can be. And here I am criticizing somebody who's averaging 33 points per game. So I kind of look like a fool. But like, I just feel like he should spend more time in the post, especially, in the playoffs. And, his statistics in the playoffs have mostly been about the same. But a couple of 4th quarters towards the end, hasn't played great. And I just think that as a superstar, what are you best at? And whatever that is, in the clutch time, in the clutch moments, that's what you do. So for me, at the end of the games, his butt should be in the paint. And, that would be most successful for the 76ers. So, again, he's averaging 33 a game, so clearly he knows what he's doing. But I just think when it comes down to it in the playoffs, he's got to, especially at the end, do what you're best at. And what you're best at is dominating in the paint. So that's why I wanted to say in the 76ers.
And Gary, let's do with that. Gary, take it away with your thoughts, and let's get with Ja and those Grizzlies, and then let's proceed.
So Ben, you hit the nail on the head. With Philly, there's a little bit of that Buffalo Bills vibe of look, this process is now taking 8 years.
9 years because Embiid got drafted in 2014.
Okay, so 9 years. We've had a 9-year process and no trip to the finals. No trip to the conference finals. Nothing.
Yep, no trip to the conference finals. Yep.
This is now or never. And right now, if you're looking at Philly, you're looking at Doc Rivers, who I ranted about a few weeks ago. If he doesn't get to at least the conference finals this year, you have to start looking at him and going
I think he's
what are you good for?
I think he's the most overrated coach of our lifetimes.
Without question, I'm not gonna go on that rant again. But
It's okay. That's all right. You brought it up. I had to throw it in there. What has he done besides 2008?
He's been to one final since 2010. He's been 2010 and 0 conference finals since 2012. So it's been a decade of, we love Doc and he's such a great coach. I'm sure that he is. He's a good regular season coach, but as I've said many times, him and his starting guard seem to be allergic to springtime. Don't know why, but
they're not winning it. They're not winning it.
No, but they're not going to win a championship. But they have to. They can't go out in the second round. If they go out in the second round, you got to really start considering you got to move Doc. Embiid is going to start looking okay, well, where can I win that's not here?
Gary, I really this team is not going to win a championship. I mean, to me, it's championship or bust at this point. For James Harden, when he got drafted 2008, third overall out of Arizona State, Houston had all those great Houston teams, had a team that won 65 games, was up 3-2 against the Golden State Warriors. I know Chris Paul didn't play, and they could say all that, but you had the best record in the league. Yeah, but there's just no more excuses. I'm just tired of giving the Sixers excuses and saying what is the no, it's championship or bust at this point.
They don't. I was looking at it. I was talking with my friend Jordan, who's really big into the NBA. I'm like, they don't really have a weakness.
That's what I'm saying.
If you don't have a true weakness, then shouldn't you win?
Dude,
by default?
Bro, we don't talk enough about Tobias Harris. Tobias Harris is a legit number 3 option outside of Embiid and Harden. And then you got Maxey. And then you got all those other dudes coming off the bench. There is no reason why they are not contenders in the Eastern Conference. To me, it comes down to coaching. And the person I'm going to blame is Doc Rivers, because you have a guy at Embiid who easily could have won back-to-back MVPs, who is arguably a top 3 player in the league. And James Harden, yes, is 33, but still is a top 20 player and is still a walking bucket. I mean, damn. And Tobias Harris is what averaging.
To your point on Embiid, think about the top 2 teams in the East. Who the heck is Milwaukee going to put on him? If he puts his butt in the paint, who's Milwaukee going to put on him? Mm-hmm. And the Celtics, sure, you got Robert Williams, but Embiid can overpower him.
Exactly. Marissa, you said what you said.
You got those 2 teams. Embiid's butt should be in the paint because they can't guard.
That's what I'm saying, man. Just what I'm saying. I really think they match up very well against every team in the league. They do. I mean, you got Embiid. Look, we can talk about them forever, but just for the sake of time, let's keep this thing going. Again, 1 minute each. Let's talk about this whole John Morant and Oh man, this whole situation with John Moran and the Grizzlies. Gary, I know that you got a little bit of gripes, so let's just talk a little bit high level. Gary, we'll let you get the final word. Ben, talk a little bit to me about Memphis. I'll give my thoughts, and then Gary, you wrap it up with your gripes.
I think just to speak on Ja himself, I think this is a really big moment in not only his career, but arguably his life as well. And this could turn out to be the turning point where he changes, necessarily who he's hanging out with and really kind of changes his life for the better, especially with all that is in front of him. And I think that this is a real opportunity for him to learn and grow from this. And I think, there's a possibility, 5 years from now where everyone is giving him a lot of credit for all the changes that he made positively. And hopefully that is the direction that this goes. I mean, we still a lot of unknowns, and arguably for the next probably couple months, there's still be a lot of unknowns as well. But that's kind of my thought as far as the off the court stuff. I think it's a really good opportunity for him to, really look at himself in the mirror and make some changes and hopefully grow. As far as basketball goes, I just can't, there's something about Memphis, as a basketball team, as much as they have depth and they have some really good role players, it's just man, I just can't fully believe in them in the playoffs. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, I think I think that they are, if they do finish the number 2 seed, they kind of remind me of an overrated number 1 seed Miami last year that won 50 games. That's who they remind me of. I think that they're eroding in front of us, and I do not think that they're going to have the chemistry. They lost a key backup whose name I can't remember. Due to suspension. I mean, the team is unraveling. All I'm going to say is that John Morant, there are players who have done far worse than what he has done. I'm not saying I'm giving him a pass, but I think that when you look at other athletes and the things that they have done, but I'm just going to say specifically athletes of color, and I'm not going to get too much on that because I think that we have to be very, very, very specific when we're talking about white athletes versus black athletes, and that there is a different type of stigma and there's a different type of level of expectation. He's 23 years old. He has a 5-year, $230 million contract that's going to kick in. You look at Paul Pierce. I mean, the man got stabbed or shot. No one talks about that anymore. You look at Tiger Woods. What he did back in 2009. Is anyone talking about that anymore? No. So, again, what he has done, he's made a mistake. He's young, not making excuses for it. He needs to do his time because he did the crime. He needs to take his responsibility and accountability. He should be punished for it. But I do not think that this should be the defining moment right now. This is just what's in the news cycle right now. And I generally think 4 or 5 years from now, as long as he gets his act right, I generally think that this would be something that he will learn from. And this would just be water under the bridge at this point. That's just how I feel. But Ben, any thoughts? And then Gary, you got your grade?
I was just going to say, as long as he turns it around the way that we think and he should, this will, to your point, it'll be a footnote. It happened, but people will not be talking about it.
Yes. But Gary, take it away, sir, to your Gary's gripes.
So this is a two-parter since we brought up John Morant and Memphis. You made the point, Jeff. He's only 23 years old, and he owned his mistakes. Do I believe that his statement was a little manufactured? Yes. But I think that comes from having people older than you, wiser than you, that have been in this position or know how to spin things, giving you the words to say. I'm really hoping that he follows what he says, that he backs up his words with actions. But never mind the big bag that he got from Memphis. That city puts on for John Morant like no athlete puts on for, especially for a relatively smaller market.
Mm-hmm.
John Morant's their everything. Kids look up to him. Kids want to be him. He's about to drop his shoe with Nike. He is the American dream. So it pisses me off when these things happen. I'm glad that he owned it. But you gotta stop being a hoodlugger, sir. There's no need. And I don't care. You can say, oh, I gotta stay hard, I gotta maintain. For what? The goal was to get out the hood. You won. You won.
You sound like you're from the hood, though.
But the point is that he wanted to improve his status quo, improve his money, improve how he takes care of his family, his fame, and all that. He got that. He didn't have to go to an LA. He didn't have to go to like a New York or Miami or a big market. He's doing this in friggin' Memphis. Like, so there's a part of me that's like, no, you gotta. I'm not going to sit here and browbeat him because, hell, at 23, I did my fair share of stupid shit. I know it. I can write a book about it. But it's these things that bother me. I'm like, you got to – there's an article from Anscape that came out a couple of days ago about how if there's anybody that John Morant should be listening to, it's Carmelo Anthony. And that's because Carmelo Anthony – was doing the exact same stuff that John Morant is doing, was in his shoes, and then he got the right people around him. He allowed his then girlfriend, now ex-wife Lala, and his mother to be closer and better, manage who he's around, who's around him, the people who handle his money. Carmelo Anthony had every reason to be the villain. The whole brawl at Madison Square Garden. He had every reason to be that guy compared to LeBron James. Carmelo Anthony won the Kareem Abdul-Jabbar Social Justice Champion like last year or the year before that. I'm like, same person. So there is precedent that you can turn this around, but this is on job. And unfortunately for Memphis, they're going to suffer because of this. I didn't think they were going to. I think they found fool's gold last year, being 56 wins and, kind of being the surprise of the West and really making a deep run. But at the end but I felt this year they're going to get caught and take a step back. I actually have as my prediction or a spoiler or really a prediction that whoever wins in the play-in is likely going to knock out Memphis from the playoffs. And I still believe that.
Okay. That's real. No, scary gripes, everyone. We'll leave it at that. I mean, it's just that real. I mean, it's going to be.
I think Gary wants to say something else. Body language wants to say something else.
I mean, it's unfortunate because Memphis should have taken that next step. I think that Memphis should have been the best team in the West this season. Based off the talent they have, based off of you have a superstar in John Morant, you got Dylan Brooks with him, you have Steven Adams and all these other great players around him that should have taken that next step. And it seems like they all got a little fat and happy. When I believe it was Josh said, "Are we good in the West?" Doesn't look like it now, does it?
Mm-hmm. I kind of thought he was going to regret that statement.
Yeah. And he absolutely does. Now, my gripe, I've gone back and forth. I was going to talk about Daniel Jones and his money, and hey, you know what? Get paid, young brother, get paid. Fine, whatever. I was going to talk about the Jets and Aaron Rodgers. Don't care. I want to take a second because we don't talk about them enough, and I know we don't trust them to do anything, long term. But how about them damn Sacramento Kings? Because every time we say, "Oh, they're going to fall off," or "They're not going to," this can't last. They're 38-26, and they're third in the West. They just might go ahead and win the Pacific Division. Who the hell had that coming at the start of the season? Raise your hand. Anybody? Yeah,
and
no.
they've been hanging on to that 3 seed for a while too. Like you said, people thought they were going to fall down in the standings.
But who's the coach?
Yes, Mike Brown.
And who did Mike Brown coach when they beat that team in 2007 with Chauncey Billups and those dudes?
Yes, it was.
Okay,
Mike Brown is a damn good coach.
Yes, he is.
And listen, Sacramento might mess around, and with how Memphis is kind of ebb and flowing at this point, don't be surprised if we talk a month from now, Sacramento's a 2 seed. What?
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, what year is this? 2003?
Right now, they are literally only a half
facts.
game back. Only a half game back of the 2.
Hey,
Who had
facts.
this?
So
Who had this when the season started? For real.
hey, no lies about that. No lies about that. But gentlemen, this was I'm glad that we decided to do a little bit of longer of an episode. Definitely got a lot of good stuff in. We'll definitely kick back at it next week. Marissa, thanks for watching. Hopefully you're feeling better.
Yes.
Sending you much love, peace, and prosperity. And again, happy birthday to you. Can't wait for you to join us back on next Tuesday. So that's all, folks, for another exciting episode. We have some exciting sports coming up. We got the start of MLB season. We got NHL playoffs coming up. We got NBA playoffs. I mean, we got the NFL draft coming up. We got our 4-parter NFL pre-draft series coming up, Ben.
Oh yeah. That was a lot of fun last year. We got to do it again for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. We're gonna have that stuff coming up in our pre-practice session. But again, folks, peace and love. Thank you for all the support. And again, y'all take care.